Have you ever bought something only to later realize you paid too much? Or maybe judged someone based on a first meeting only to find out later you were completely wrong? These experiences might be examples of anchoring bias. It's a sneaky mental shortcut that can powerfully influence our decisions and judgments. Basically, it's our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, the anchor, even if that information is irrelevant or inaccurate. Imagine you're at a car dealership. The salesperson starts by suggesting a high price for the car. Even if you know the price is inflated, that initial high number, the anchor, will likely influence your perception of what a fair price is. You might end up negotiating down from that inflated price, but you'll probably still pay more than you would have if the initial price had been lower. That high anchor sets the stage for your entire negotiation. This happens in all sorts of situations. Think about real estate. If you see a house listed for a very high price, even if it's overpriced, you'll subconsciously start to think of that price as more reasonable than you otherwise might. Then, even a lower price might seem like a bargain. Your judgment is anchored to that first number. It's not just about money. Anchoring bias affects many of our everyday decisions. Consider job interviews. The interviewer's first impression can strongly influence their overall assessment of the candidate, regardless of subsequent performance. If the candidate initially seems nervous, that might overshadow the skills they demonstrate later on. The first impression, the anchor, colors their entire perception. This bias affects the way we make judgments about people too. We meet someone new, and they say something a little off-putting. Maybe they're a bit blunt, or their humor doesn't quite land. That initial negative impression can become the anchor, influencing how we interpret all their subsequent words and actions. We might misinterpret their intentions or overlook their positive qualities because of that initial anchor. It is important to note that this isn't necessarily about being intentionally mean, but more about the way our brains process information. Now, why does this happen? It boils down to the way our brains work. We're constantly bombarded with information, and we need efficient ways to process it all. Anchoring bias is a cognitive shortcut, a way to simplify decision-making. Instead of carefully weighing all the available evidence, we latch onto the first piece of information and adjust our thinking from there. It's a fast, but not always accurate way of making judgments. So, how can we avoid being influenced by anchoring bias? One key strategy is to be aware of its existence. Simply recognizing that you're susceptible to this bias can help you think more critically about the information you receive. Try to gather as much information as possible before making a decision. Look for multiple perspectives and actively challenge your own assumptions. Don't let that first impression dictate your entire judgment. When you're negotiating a price, consider looking up comparable deals beforehand to establish a baseline. This helps you avoid being swayed by an initial inflated price. In job interviews, try to present yourself confidently from the start, as the first impression may significantly impact the overall assessment. Also, remember to actively seek feedback during the process. In social situations, making a conscious effort to listen actively and avoid jumping to conclusions about others is helpful. It takes practice, but consciously trying to delay judgment can prevent that initial impression from unduly influencing how you perceive someone over time. Giving people more than one chance to showcase themselves, you can build a more comprehensive view, reducing reliance on just the first meeting or first words. Understanding anchoring bias is about understanding how our brains work. It's not about eliminating it entirely, but about becoming more aware of its influence and using strategies to mitigate its effect on our decisions and judgments. We can be better informed, more fair-minded decision makers by learning about these mental shortcuts and finding ways to navigate around them. It's a constant learning process to challenge our ingrained biases and improve our ability to make objective decisions, but it's a worthwhile endeavor. Think about those times you felt swayed by an initial impression or a first piece of information. Understanding how anchoring bias works can help you avoid being trapped by this common cognitive shortcut, leading to more informed and balanced decisions in many aspects of life. Learning to recognize and counteract anchoring bias is a valuable skill that can improve our judgment, leading to better choices in everything from buying a car to making new friends.